Whoa. Let's just see here. Wrong control, that explains a lot.
Protest is now illegal in the U.S. Move along, citizen.
And yet we just sit there and calmly feel and say, oh, they're making us safe.
I don't even know whose side I'm on.
Okay, this is straight out of 1984. We're living in a police state.
I never had a choice of what happened to me.
The city is being turned into a police state. Militarized riot gear, LRAD machines, and drones overhead.
Just gonna try and build an audience and see what happens today. It's gonna be an interesting one.
Our government now works for the banks. America, the greatest losses to our freedom have come not from someone attacking us, but from the government ignoring the Constitution and the majority letting them get away with it.
Yeah, we torture. Yeah, we spy on. Yeah, we do all of this, but it's no big deal. Get used to it. You know what? We're not going to get used to it.
Police have opened fire on the crowd.
We're all in serious danger.
Millions of dollars spent on new police gear, trucks ready to function as road barricades.
What you have here is, this is the wars coming home.
If anybody doesn't believe this government is capable of doing these kinds of things, you're right.
Go back to bed, America. Your government is in control again.
Well, you know, America's a strange country. All you need to keep them pacified is give them a dozen donuts and a gun. They don't seem to have the capacity, the intellectual capacity, to think of their own self-interest in any other way than the next 5 minutes.
It's time to wake up.
Wake up, America!
Wake up, America.
I didn't speak up because I was not a writer. They came for the students. I didn't speak up because I was not a student. They came for musicians. I couldn't figure
patrols. If only they could somehow become conscious of their own strength, would have no need to conspire. They needed only to rise up and shake themselves like a horse shaking off flies. If they chose, they could blow the party to pieces tomorrow morning. Surely sooner or later it must occur to them to do it. Until they become conscious, they will never rebel, and until after they have rebelled, they cannot become conscious.
The time is coming when the window for us to restore the control of our government to ourselves will close, and we had damn well better act before then.
You want to know why the American public is fit? They're fit because they're not seeing their Congress do the work that they're sent to do.
We need to demand more of our elected officials.
Damn Bill to come out here all the damn time. Come out here in the last second. And I gotta try to figure out how to vote for my people.
Bathed in the excesses of power, they passed a bill that by their own admission, they hadn't read. This is PR politics.
It's consent that we bring up the bill to extend the tax cut for 160 million Americans. As you walk off the floor, Mr. Speaker, you're walking out.
If you want to stand up on the floor of the Senate and defend the Wall Street banks like Bank of America and the credit card companies, be my guest. I would rather stand with the consumers and retailers who've been taking the cleaners for years and years.
Why aren't we questioning the underlying premise of the need for a bailout with taxpayers' money? Why aren't we passing new laws to stop the speculation which triggered this? Why aren't we directly helping homeowners with their debt burden? Why aren't we helping American families faced with bankruptcy? Why aren't we reducing debts for Main Street instead of Wall Street? Is this the United States Congress or the board of directors of Goldman Sachs?
When I fuck up, who bails me out? No one.
There is no one here to object. This is why the American people have thrown you out of power. You see, you're right. It is within your sole discretion to recognize a member. But you chose to exercise the power of the gavel, Madam Speaker. Therein lies the problem. He's not here to pull off this political stunt, then we should just proceed and this bill should be withdrawn. It is the right thing to do by the American people to stop these tactics.
Enough! And make no mistake about it, this is not about national security.
But my point about this is a war without end. I'm afraid of giving up the right to trial by jury and hoping that someday they will declare an end to this war and they'll give back the right to trial by jury.
Mr. Speaker, a nationwide revolt is developing over the body scanners at the airports, and it should.
And we also know there are individuals who are making money off this. They say, trust us. Trust us, the people who brought us Katrina, to be competent in face of a disaster. Trust us, the people who brought us warrantless wiretapping and other excesses eroding our civil liberties. Trust us.
Many of us were told in private conversations that if we voted against this bill on Monday, that the sky would fall, the market would drop 2,000 or 3,000 points the first day, another couple thousand the second day, and a few members were even told that there would be martial law in America if we voted no.
We're not trying to scare kids. This president's foreign policy is what's scaring the kids of this country. Well, it's the same people that told us Saddam Hussein had something to do with 9/11. Same people that told us Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. Same people that told us we were going to be able to use the oil for reconstruction money. Same people that told us that we'd be greeted as liberators, not occupiers. Same people, same president that told us the Taliban is gone. Same president that told us that Poland is our ally 2 days before they pull out. Same president that tells us Iraq is going just great. Same president that tells us the economy is going just great. Same people that told us the tax cut was going to create millions of jobs. Same people that told us that the Medicare program only cost $400 billion when it really cost $540 billion. So please forgive us for not believing what you're saying. Please forgive the students of this country for not believing what you're saying. Not one thing about this war that has been told to the American people, or that has been told to these college students has been true. Not one thing. Bremer says we need more troops. The Pentagon says we need more troops. And this president can't get them from the international community. There's only one option left. Let's be honest with the American people.
Fascism, by definition, is when corporations team up with organized religion and control government. Do I have to say anything more? Wouldn't you say that we're on the brink if we're not there?
We're witnessing a slow and steady takeover of our true freedoms. And now we see the government taking over banks. We see the government taking over car companies, insurance. We're being told what cars we can drive, how much we can make. And now they want to take control of our health care.
It's one more attempt for them to put everything that we do day and night under the control of the federal government.
Are you willing to sacrifice your freedom for liberty?
Well, I say that they're taking away our free will. The American people are being forced to do something they don't want to do.
But there really is a difference between us, and it's basically this. We don't think the government should be in control of all of this. We want people to be in control. And that, at the end of the day, is the big difference.
What they are trying to do is create an America very unlike the America that has existed for centuries. The thing associated with America, freedom, is precisely what must be destroyed if this is to be turned into a fundamentally different country to suit Obama's vision of the country and of himself.
I think he's going way beyond his constitutional powers assigned to the executive branch, which is, by definition, an imperial president.
Once again, total power in one person's hands, not the American way.
He's centralizing power inside the Beltway, taking power and decision-making from families, from individuals, and as a consequence, what he's doing is building an unchecked executive.
Now, I hate to point fingers at anybody, but the present administration probably
Good
has
day,
a lot to do with that.
But you know who's responsible?
All right, well, I got one person watching. Good day, Minzy. So this, yesterday, I'm just going to show it quickly, is a small list of what I asked for topics. So, as you can see, my friends list is quite diverse. Feel free to share this by all means. What am I going to cover today? Well, one of the people said, stay light on the politics. I always agree with that. There's enough people giving politics out there. But then we go on the complete other side and talking about penis and vagina sex, and I just kind of put that in as heterosexual relationships. Let's stick with that. People want to talk about how families are hard on people like us because we think differently. That was labeled as talk about piece of shit families. Then we get into the more serious stuff. We get into the Hadron Collider, HARP. We get into how the brain, the mind works, how we survive if we are actually a targeted individual, economic actions post-revolution, and, well, we always love to talk about how to destroy the pyramid and win this war once and for all. So, I'm going to let you choose how I open this and how I start, because I don't normally script myself, but these are the topics, and if you happen to have a topic that you would like me to talk about since you're actually watching, by all means just throw in a comment in there, and I will definitely cover what you're asking. So let's see if we can make this model work, where the people actually talk to me and I actually talk to them. But differently, of course. But in the meantime, I was just listening to a good old-fashioned Anon video, and it's funny, because when you listen to them today and the issues of the past, how much of the past issues are still with us. Alright, so I'll start here with, I don't know, the family thing, I guess. How do we go about dealing with our families when we're actually, in certain situations, we're the only ones that are actually researching this information? This information isn't something that people want to look at. Well, how did you find it? I guess is how it boils down to. How did you find it? How did you feel when you found it? Then you have to ask yourself, would I have listened if someone would have actually told me? Or did I require something to happen in my life for me to find it? Me personally, I didn't listen to anybody when they told me. So I don't really fault people, because it is quite outlandish and outrageous when you only start piecing the pieces together, because you're like, oh, well, this puzzle will never get finished. Next thing you know, the puzzle is finished a heck of a lot quicker than you ever anticipated. So, me, it took me a lifetime event. I grew marijuana. That's what I did. And they locked me up for it. Well, in the process of my trials and my sentence, it took them 11 months to prosecute me. I only did 6 months in jail. Well, throughout those 11 months, I wanted to find out why was I going to jail? Why was marijuana illegal? Like the true reason, not drugs are bad. We all know drugs are bad. But why was marijuana illegal? Like, what the hell, right? And I looked into it, and we all know most of it. How it would affect the paper industries, how it would affect the medicinal industries, how it would affect a lot of raw material industries, just things that you like hempcrete. People wouldn't even fathom that growing a plant like marijuana would have an impact on the concrete industry, but it would. So it covers entirely too many spectrums. It affects too many people's pocketbooks. Therefore, they just outright illegaled it. Interesting enough. So I figured out that's what I went to jail for. But whose pocketbooks were we hurting? Well, then when you go up to the highest end of things, in my little local area in Canada, I have this company. It's called Irving. Where I live, they own most of our forests. They own the paper industry. They have their hands in the oil industry, things like that. Come to realize, marijuana would probably hurt Irving's pocket. They work with the wood industry. And we know about biofuels, and they work with oil, so on and so forth. So then I was like, well, who is like Irving, but on a global scale? Because, you know, as much as I say religion aside, there are certain things that I've always adhered to, like when they said, as you'll find in the macro, you'll find in the micro. So if there's this little thing happening, then there must be this big thing happening. Only made sense to me. Bam. New World Order. Just about every conspiracy theory known to man comes to light. But because an event had actually happened in my life that was about to remove my freedom, it was easier for me to follow this information instead of just wasting hours in the day. That was the big thing. Wasting hours in the day. Like if somebody would have been actually here far sooner, the video would have been stopped sooner. The video I chose to put on was 18 minutes. I figured, hey, someone's going to come around between now and then. I'll start talking. It takes time. So, that's what I did. I wasted hours in the day to learn. Problem was, I thought I had it figured out. And then the anonymous stuff came. And then I really thought I had it figured out. Didn't know my ass from a hole in the ground. I hadn't figured out the Palestinian and Israeli crisis. I hadn't figured out the Syrian conflict. I hadn't touched World War II and Hitler. There was so many things. I was still stuck on 9/11 and George Bush. And what was Obama doing? It's a very, very small spectrum. Very tiny spectrum in comparison to what was actually available. That's when it came to light that understanding religious ideologies of the world might be a key solution here. I might need to know some stuff here. Boom. Throw myself into Judaism, throw myself into Islam, brush myself up on my Christianity, and I start looking at other religions in the world, other belief structures. I'll go as far as Wicca and witchcraft and all of that nonsense, and I'll go as high up into the Vatican with the Pope or the prophet of the LDS religion, or we'll talk about imams from Islam or some of the greatest rabbis from Judaism. So I have no quarrels, no problems speaking with these individuals, learning these individuals' teachings. A lot of them are quite similar, I won't lie. But my search was for the enemy. That's what I was asked to do. I was looking for the people who believed and taught the stuff that we don't like. It's just a root beer. It's too goddamn early in the morning. But that's what I'm trying to figure out here. Is the stuff that, we don't like pedophilia. We don't. It's pretty fair to say that's bad. So is there such a thing as a religion that preaches it? The people have jumped on the bandwagon, like, immediately started saying things like, oh, yeah, it's all over the Quran, man. The Prophet Muhammad had like this young wife, and oh, yeah, it's all... You got to look into the stories now. You got to read them, right? You have no choice. It has been brought to the table. So now I got to look into it. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, he had a young wife, and things of this nature, and I read it, and unfortunately it made sense to me. Not because I agree with it. It's not, when we're reading these stories, first, in certain instances, it may very well just be stories. Allegorical teachings used to teach a complex moment in human history. But when we look at these stories, we have to also take some form of context here. So we're talking about a man lost in the desert with a group of people, and amongst those people there's a varying age of women. I don't think I have to get into a huge birds and the bees. You know what? Look how that worked itself in there. Heterosexual relationships. I don't have to get into a huge talk about birds and the bees when I start discussing how women can't have children after certain ages, and how we have to wait for a woman to achieve a certain age before she can bear children. This isn't nonsensical stuff. But what if between the time that she couldn't have a kid and the time that she could have a kid, her parents may not be in the scene? What would we do then? What would the man do then? Take into consideration here that we're not talking about a city with thousands and thousands of people. We're talking about a small group of people in the middle of the desert. Slim pickings, I guess, is where I'm getting at here. So then we got to push it back. How many hundreds, how many thousands of years? It's like I've said in prior videos. I think we stopped marrying at 13 and 14 like just a few hundred, not even a few hundred years ago. Goodness gracious. If we actually started to think about it, I think our great-great-grandparents or our great-great-great-grandparents, that is where we find stories of our grandmothers being married at 14. There's only like 2 or 3 greats there. It means that our own culture and our own civilization didn't see a huge problem with it just so shortly ago, when we're referring to an instance that took place so very long ago. So I won't look at that one instance found within the Quran to actually state that it promotes pedophilia. I can't do that. The evidence isn't present to do that. Okay, covered that little piece here about Islam not teaching pedophilia. Okay, if we look in good old-fashioned Christian teachings, it's not found there either. Okay, when we actually know what the Jewish Torah is, you will very quickly realize that it's not found there either. Because the Torah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is just the first 5 books of Moses. Now, I may not say them in order, but I think it's Genesis, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Numbers, and another one. Fuck, see, I don't even know them all. That's horrible of me. I have to grab the Bible and figure it out. But yeah, it's the first 5 books of Moses. So that's the Torah, from what I understand. It's the first 5 things in this huge brick we all call the Bible. All of the Torah reading Jews are saying that this stuff is true and that stuff is garbage. Okay. All the Muslims are saying is that all of this is garbage. Muslims are telling you that the Bible was created as a religious control system. If you do enough research, you'll figure out that's what the Council of Nicaea did. Okay? Control. Isn't that interesting? It's all about control. There was a time when we did it with politics. We took care of ourselves. We controlled ourselves. Populations grew. That became complicated. Jesus. God. Religion. What if I created something that you couldn't hide from? The invisible man in the sky, the sin, the this, the that. What if I did that? What if I created that for you and sold that to you and people believed this? Jeez. People were already then living in an era as those satellites with cameras in the sky were watching them. The human race was being prepared for something. being prepared for unlimited surveillance, perhaps? Interesting when you think outside the box. But the point that I'm making here is that the religious correlations between Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, we don't find pedophilia. Not in large numbers, anyway. Or any true and honest, grotesque fashion. So the truth is I can't really find the enemy within the three Abrahamic faiths. It's hard. I can find stupid within the three Abrahamic faiths. That's not complicated to find, okay? Stupid is the KKK that we find in Christianity. Stupid is the radical Islamic Muslim terrorists that everybody seems to be afraid of these days. Stupid would be the radical form of Jewish terrorism. That would be stupid as well. Or white supremacy. No, I already covered that with the KKK. But what is Jewish extremism? That. I was afraid to touch that one. I still don't know how to bring this topic to light without being called something absolutely horrible. But remember when I said I found a book that promoted these horrible, horrendous things? I actually found a book that said that it's okay to rape little girls. Found one. I found a book that said it's okay to steal. Found it. Found a book that said it's okay to tie somebody up, not feed them, not give them water. And if they die, don't worry, that's not your fault. I found a book that teaches these things. It's fair to say that a book that teaches these things could very well belong to the enemy. Are you guys actually prepared to discover who the enemy is? Are we? I don't think we are. I think we're still too busy apologizing to the enemy. We haven't given the enemy enough money yet to be able to return to war with it. That's what I think has happened here. So, remember when I said I had to touch on to World War II and I had to touch on to Hitler? What if I told you Hitler didn't go to war with the Jews? How would that make you feel? I'll let that one sit for a second. I'm going to jump right back to control power and how we're moving from religious control to different forms of control now. High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, also known as HAARP. This one is going to take the cake. Now, I talked about religious control, and I've also talked about a word that not a lot of people understand: manufactured end-day zeitgeist. So if you were to take the end game of all the religious books in the world and you superimpose them onto each other, what would you have to do to actually make it look like we live in the end days? How much effort would it take for a group of human beings to put their brains together and make it so that when me and you look outside, we have an overwhelming emotional and spiritual presence within our soul that makes us believe that the end days are actually close? What would it take? Okay? Well, we would need the ability to create wars. Okay, we got that. Got that ability, okay? We would need the ability to create rumors of wars. Oh boy, with the media today, my goodness, a good rumor is easy to spread. So right there, we got wars and rumors of wars. That's an end day sign. Okay. What about 1/3 of the world's oceans dying. That is something that's in end days. Well, when we look at what happened with Fukushima, and we observe what happened with the BP oil spill, that's 2 oceans that with just a little bit more time are going to be dead. If they're not dead now, they're dying. Okay? My God, I hate it. I was never good at geography, but I think there's 7 oceans in the world, if I'm not mistaken. If 2 oceans die, and there's only 7 oceans in the world, isn't 2 1/3 of 7? Or extremely close to 1/3 of 7? I'm just saying. Okay, stick with me on this one. Okay? So 1/3 of the oceans are on their way out. 1/3 of the Earth's green grass shall be burnt up. Okay. There's 2 theories here that are happening. One is if you actually pay attention on the leaves of your green foliage, like right now, it's freaking summertime, North America, go out there, take a look. Yeah, there's some of it that actually legitimately looks like it's burning, charred, black. Apparently the sun's doing it. Okay? I have an interesting thought. Something tells me that when the water hits it and the sun rays magnify through the water, it might actually create a burning sensation, especially if this water or the plant itself happens to be filled with chemicals. Something happens with a chemtrail and we have a chemical cloud, chemical in the water, water hits the plant, sun. I could see a very physical, natural explanation behind burnt leaves in the wild. I might be wrong, but it's probably a natural phenomenon. I'll give you a little bit less natural phenomenon, something that makes a little bit more sense, because the Earth is big. 1/3 of the Earth being burnt up. What color is the pave? You know, the stuff we drive on outside in our streets, in our roads. What color is that? And if you observed all of the pave everywhere in the world, and you secluded it to one little spot, all of the asphalt, all of the pavement, would that be equal to or close to 1/3 of the Earth's surface? Because you got to remember, right, 1/3 of the Earth's green grass being burnt up is not hard to achieve, considering most of our planet is water. So, we got wars, rumors of wars. We got the oceans going down. Consequently, with oceans going down, you know what's going to happen, right? Marine life, the die-offs. What's going to happen? Now we got the green grass burnt up. This is all relatively simple stuff, okay? There shall be earthquakes and famines. I put them together. I should have said famines first, but the famines are already there. Famines are naturally produced easily, like that. Good drought, a lot of people are starving. Sad part is we actually produce enough shit to prevent a lot of that. We're just not sharing. We could actually prevent famine. Famine, although naturally produced through drought or inundations, meaning too much water, through drought or inundations, creating famine. It's a naturally created situation, absolutely. But it's fixable. 100% fixable. We can fix that shit. That's not an impossibility. So famines are there, 100% preventable. Not preventable, sorry. You can't prevent it. It happens naturally. It takes place. Fixable. Totally repairable. Earthquakes. Ooh. How would a human do that? Seriously though, like, it's not. Remember, I'm working with you as we watch on a theory as to how a human being could recreate the end days to figure out whether or not it's possible. Remember? HAARP. HAARP will be used for this big part of this. HAARP was an expensive piece of this puzzle. So, in essence, what HAARP does is it fires beams of energy. Okay, not beams of light. You know what? For all I know, it probably is beams of light. But we're talking high frequency energy. It was first explained to me like this. If we took a small amount of this frequency of energy and blasted it into the dirt, this is how we find natural gas wells and oil wells. If it finds a rock, it dings back a certain sound. If it finds oil, it dings back another sound. If it finds natural gas, it dings back a completely separate sound. Depending on what they're looking at will depend on how the frequency bounce backs. Echolocation, very much like a dolphin, okay? Now, he explains on now that if he were to crank that energy to the levels in which HAARP is messing with, it's been explained that when the energy would beam down and find whatever it wants to find, the shock waves, the amount of energy being pushed into the earth, when the shock waves come back, the ding, oh, ding, natural gas, ding, oil, ding, this is just a rock. The ding would come back with enough force to shake, to create an earthquake. Isn't that interesting? That we actually have a machine that can make an earthquake happen. So I did a little bit of the science behind it. Okay? I believe it's 10.2. HAARP hits at a 10.2 miles underneath the Earth's surface. It's fingerprint. It's the blueprint. It's how you know HAARP is responsible for the earthquake. I'm not just going to tell you what they do with it. I'm going to tell you how to figure it out, too. You have any idea how long it took me to figure that out? Which earthquakes are responsible naturally, which earthquakes are man-made? 10.2 miles under the Earth's surface is man-made. But that's only what happens if you point that SOB into the ground. What do you think you can do if you pointed it in the sky? Okay, stay with me here, because it goes, there will be earthquakes and devastating signs in the sky. It will scare people. Signs in the sky will absolutely scare people. Most of the time, signs in the sky that scare people are eclipses. Those who were knowledgeable of lunar eclipses and how they worked, and things like that, held the power. Information was power back in the day. If I'm smart, and you're dumb, and I know there's an eclipse coming, you have no idea what an eclipse is, I can tell you that if you don't behave, I'm going to say a few words, and God's going to block the sun. And that I won't move that until you obey what I say. Only my incantation will allow for God to reveal the sun again. Now, if you don't know that the moon and the sun and the eclipse are only going to take place at a particular time and are only going to last for a certain amount of time, oof, your terrorist scare tactic, it better be well thought out, well played, because you only got a small window of time. So let us be quite clear that information will always be power. The use of information will always be power. So what could we do with HAARP? Could we do anything with it in the sky? At a low frequency, scientists have discovered that they can paint in the sky. Guys, notice what China's been doing with their holograms? Interesting stuff, man. They made the Loch Ness Monster appear over a lake. It's a hologram. They brought Tupac back to life. It's a hologram, but isn't that shit freaking awesome? Okay, so we know where we are right now. What do you honestly think could happen with HAARP technology, painting the skies, so creating a background, we throw on a little holographic technology there. Now Now, no matter what part of the world you're in, I can recreate your deities. I can make Jesus in the sky. I can make Mary in the sky. Actually, you know what? I think they did that one already to an African tribe. Not even kidding. Search it. It's on YouTube. Look for the Virgin Mary in the sky. I think they've been playing with it. They could make Muhammad appear. They could make Krishna appear. It doesn't matter what you believe in. We can make it all appear in the sky. So we have a machine that can make earthquakes happen, and we have a machine that can make the sky a very interesting thing to look at. Oh, that's supposed to be the big one. Now there's going to be floods, as in the days of Noah, floods that have never been seen before. Do you guys remember the tsunami that actually cracked Fukushima? That was badass. Talking about floods you've never seen before. Holy cow. You know what's sad? You know what's really sad? Is that it was an earthquake that took place at the ocean's floor that created a tsunami that destroyed the best part of Japan. Are you ready to be hurt a little bit now? What if I told you that that earthquake took place at 10.2 miles below the Earth's surface? Get what I'm saying now? Oh, the tsunami was a horrible natural event, wasn't it? Isn't it great to be able to attribute one of the greatest weapons of war to God? Oh, God works in mysterious ways. Mother Nature, she takes no prisoners. It's a little upsetting. But yes, if you turn HAARP, you point it into an ocean, you create an earthquake on the ocean, yeah, we're going to start seeing some floods that we've never seen before. That's a lot right there. That's a lot for the end days. We've already just manufactured some of the most greatest forms of devastation. And I haven't hit the CDC yet, because there's supposed to be pestilence and plagues to follow. Can anybody tell me what would happen if a substantial, legitimate breach of the Center for Disease Control, you know, the people that work with some of the scariest, nastiest bug in the world, if a security breach? Or what if a natural disaster created said security breach? Ooh. Plagues and pestilence becomes very real, easily man-made. Guys, we're not supposed to be able to do all that. That's like the last book of the Bible. We're not supposed to be able to manufacture that. And in the end days, men shall fly in the sky as birds and swim under the oceans as fish. Tanks and submarines and planes. We're there. That's the point. It's not about the religious mumbo-jumbo as to which book is right. Knock, knock, ladies and gentlemen. We have arrived. How does the brain work? How does the brain process this information? The brain is going to process this information the only way it knows how. By suppressing what it doesn't understand and investigating what it does understand. With a little luck, and a little bit of dedication, if an individual continues to research, the brain continues to understand What is the consequence? What the brain originally suppressed as information that it could not understand, it shall recall upon it. Because the brain suppressed it itself, it can recall it itself with no negative ramification to the host, the human being. People have legitimately called this an action of God. But it's just how the brain works. They say to have a prayer before you write a test, so that it'll bring anything that you need to know for this test to recollection, to bring it to the forefront of your brain so that you have the information to use it. It's not the fact that you prayed to God, it's that you cognitively asked your brain to sort some stuff out for you before you start doing things. You don't actually have to do that. Your brain will do that on its own. But I won't lie, anybody who actually takes the time to meditate for those few moments that it takes to set their mind right, all it does is it creates a moment of zen within the brain. It allows the brain to do that process, you're right, quicker and smoother and more efficiently. The answers are found in spirituality, because it's only spirituality that has ever addressed the voice that's in our head. No, I'm not a schizophrenic. You know exactly what voice I'm talking about. We all have it. Go ahead. Say your name in your head without opening your mouth. Whose voice was that? Because it wasn't yours. You didn't open your mouth. You see what I'm getting at? Your thought process. How you engage into a conversation with yourself in order to think appropriately. That little teeny tiny voice, some call it the voice of reason, some call it the Holy Ghost, some call it the gift of God. That little thing is the premise. It's the base of every religious ideological teaching in the world. Because you had a gut feeling. No, man, don't go down that road. Don't do it. Because something in your brain told you that's a bad idea. God told you. That is what it is. Your brain is the most philosophical, most spiritual aspect of your entire being. It requires nutrients, yes, but not as much as your muscles, your heart, your brain is an electrical pathway. As long as it doesn't get damaged, as long as all the lubricants that's required, that's also why we're looking for the fatty acids, the fatty oils that we find in fish for our brain. So make sure that all the connections keep going. It's the electrical aspect of our body. The heart, the circulatory system, that's the lifeblood. Blood, that's the point. It moves the nutrients around your system. But your brain, that's your panel box, man. That's your electric circuit section. That is probably where that energy comes from. That leaves the body. The indestructible energy. Probably what men and women of religious theologies called the soul. So what happens when people like us know this kind of stuff? Well, we become targeted individuals. They don't want people like us speaking too loudly. They're afraid that people like us will blow the lid off of everything. They're afraid that people like us will create the New World religion before they actually have time to pull it off. Remember, religion is a control structure. Unless it's used to set you free, isn't it? Isn't that how every religion starts? I have the truth. I shall teach you something that shall set you free. But does it really? So they're afraid. They're afraid that we will seize that control apparatus before they do, and they know that it is the most important control apparatus, because that control apparatus controls this. It's the only thing that we can't control physically ourselves, is another human being's brain. Man. So let's move back to the enemy. Remember when I told you that I found a book? Preached all that garbage? Yeah. It's Zionists. Zionism. That, if there ever was a devil, truly is his masterpiece. Zionists are those responsible for killing Jesus. That's what it is. It's that ideological structure that survived the ages, just as Christianity survived the ages. So don't tell me it's impossible. Fucking Jesus did it. Okay? It's not an impossibility here. It's an ideological construct. It's an ideological construct that says it's okay to rape little kids. It's an ideological construct that, as I stated before, says it's okay to steal. It says it's okay to bind people up and leave them for dead, and that you would not be held accountable on the counts of murder. It is the ideological structure that tells the world that Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world, if you are of that religious persuasion, is literally boiling in human excrement in hell. Did you guys know that? Did you guys know that it's not the Wiccans and the witchcraft that is any form of anti-Christian and satanistic? You guys didn't know that. You guys just think that that's what that is. But no. Satanism, ladies and gentlemen, it's huge. Satanism is not witchcraft. There is a difference. Ritualistic child sacrifice, I don't think, is witchcraft. I could be wrong. I don't think that's found in Wicca. Ritualistic child sacrifice is a Zionist thing. So who is at the Bohemian Grove during the cremation of Care? That would be your political leaders that are of Zionist persuasion. See, now it's coming to light. And it's been said that you don't need to be a Jew to be a Zionist. That is extremely important. Because you've got to take into consideration that if there are actual newspaper articles that exist that declare that the Zionists of the world are declaring war on Germany. But didn't Hitler go to war with the Jews? No. According to the context of this particular article, it states that the Zionists went to war with Germany. Well, can I be like Judge Judy for a second? Can I say that if you pick a fight and you lose that fight, that falls in the category of too bad? So the Zionists picked a fight with Adolf Hitler in Germany. And at the time, the German economy, the banking system, was 10% German, 90% Zionist control. Sounds a whole lot like the Federal Reserve right now, doesn't it? I'm just saying. Let's be careful about what we're teaching and what we're learning. Because if a bunch of religious nutcases, be them Jewish, Muslim, Christian, or otherwise, declared war on a country, and that country said, fuck y'all, you're all gonna die now, what the hell? Isn't that what we're doing with Muslims right now? A group of religious nutcases declared war? And we just destroyed 7 nations in like 5 or 6 years? Or 6 nations? We still got to do Iran. Syria's still in the mix. But Libya, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Lebanon are taken care of. Iraq has been taken care of twice over by now, I think. Holy hell, ladies and gentlemen. What the heck did I stumble across here? 'Cause I'm going to tell you something. The Pharisees of old, who are the Zionists of today, the Pharisees of old used the Romans to kill Christ because the Pharisees were little bitches. Oh, they're going to say they were observing religious Sabbaths and this and that, and no, they were little bitches. Raw deal. That's what that was. The Pharisees are bitches. They don't know what they're doing. The Pharisees all need to be fucking hung and killed and castrated and fucking burn the books and burn their flags and fucking destroy all of them. Like, the Pharisees, anybody who likes the Pharisees? Oh my God, the Pharisees? The fucking, no! Destroy them all. Throw them in the Tower of Babel. Destroy them with Babylon. Because the Pharisees are the Zionists of today. You guys never paid attention to the story. You guys just read the Bible and said that it was a bunch of bullshit and that it was a bunch of hocus pocus. But think about it. A man appeared before the Roman freaking emperor. And the freaking Roman emperor said, I find no fault in this man. His blood is not on my hands, but yours. The Roman emperor cursed the Pharisees and their descendants to this very freaking day. Because the Roman emperor, the political intelligence of the time, knew that this was going to be a big fucking problem. This was bad. The Roman emperor knew it. Tried to bypass it a few times, hoping people would come to reason when he offered Barabbas up as a release secondary option to Jesus. I offer you a man who has committed no crime. And I have offered you the rapist and murderer and thief, Barabbas. And on this day I shall release one of them unto you. Who shall it be? They cried for Barabbas, the murderer. Why? What kind of sociological culture fucking existed at the time that having a murderous, rapist, thief was a good idea? Fucking let my people go. Come on now, people. The emperor didn't know what to fucking do. Releases Barabbas. What shall I do with Jesus? And the famous words, crucify him. Zionist Pharisees of old released a rapist, murderous thief, and crucified a religiously ideological man. Seems to be the going trend these days. Just putting it out there. Seems to be what we do to people. So, the Pharisees used the Romans to crucify Christ. Okay? Yet, was it not the Pharisees that had the Romans capture Christ? Do the whole gamut, right? In the middle of the night, all that stuff. Okay. Zionism begs the world for help when they bite off more than they can chew with Adolf Hitler. The persecution of the Jews, the stories, the everything becomes mainstream. And we all hate it. So what did they do? The Zionist Pharisees of the 40s, although the Roman Empire had fallen, there was a new empire to be found. It's called the Allied Forces. Once again, Zionist Pharisees used the emperor of the day to destroy its adversaries. Germany's still paying World War II reparations. Don't tell me they weren't destroyed. Christ was hung on a cross. Fair to say he was destroyed. Now we have Israel. Now this thing has been created. It's Israel. It's a state, not a country. Don't ever fucking forget it. If I had anything to say about it, it wouldn't be either one of them. So, the right to return. No. No, you don't have a right to return. Your religious text says it plainly and clearly that you have no right to return. You were exiled by your own God until your God opens the heavens of the earth and tells you you're allowed to go home. You are to remain a dispersed people around the globe. I didn't make those rules. The Muslims didn't make those rules. The Christians didn't make those rules. Those are Jewish doctrinal teachings, you hypocritical fool. So how could you possibly be in a country that is yours when your religious doctrines dictate squarely that even if I gave you a land, that you have to forsake it? You have to say, no, I cannot have it. This is how I know that the Jewish people found in Israel are not of the faith. Because that is the most unfortunate reality that anybody will ever be forced to face. They have no right to return. That's not my problem, nor is it my fault. My phone's going to die here. I'm just trying to plug the charger in. Oh, excuse me. So if you have no right to return until your own God allows you, the fuck is this Greater Israel project then? What's going on here? Why are we doing that? I don't think we're supposed to be doing that. Just putting it out there. Even our Christian teachings tell us that we shouldn't be doing that. But then I find out that Zionism is a political movement, not of a religious nature whatsoever. Oh, well, that was a little upsetting. Because Zionism, be it a political movement, is seeking religious protection by the United Nations. Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel has sought in the past that anti-Zionists, such as myself, first and foremost, I am an anti-Zionist. I am. I don't care. Call me what you want to call me, just don't call me late for supper. But I'm an anti-Zionist. And Benjamin Netanyahu would prefer that you call me an anti-Semite. But that's odd, because I side with the oldest teachings of fucking Judaism. So how could I be an anti-Semite? I don't hate Jews. I don't. So how could I be an anti-Semite? I hate people hiding behind a religion. Don't matter what religion you choose to hide behind, I hate you for that. Does it mean I hate your religion? Most religions in the world preach peace. If you pay attention to them appropriately, most of them are religions of peace. Including Islam, ladies and gentlemen, including Islam. Islam is a religion of peace. Put a couple of religious nutcases behind it, and I can make it look as bad as anything else in the world. So, this book, Connor, what's this book that you're referencing? I need to see this. I need to read this. I need to make sure that you're not just a full of shit dumbass on the internet. Okay. You're going to do two things. You will always do these two things. Okay? You're going to look for the prose, and you're going to look for the adversarial commentations on this book. I want you to research why it's a good book to read, and I want you to research why it's a horrible book to read. You need to know both sides. It's called the Talmud. The Talmud is considered to be the written form of the oral Torah. It is considered more sacred than the Torah. That's interesting. These people consider this book more sacred than the Torah, presented by Moses. Interesting. The guy that God actually apparently sided with and actually did all these apparent miracles for and then gave him the Torah decided later in history that he was going to put together a group of insignificant men and create an oral Torah. Really? Really? I don't know. I really can't say. But I do know that what's written in that book is fucking obscenely, abhorrently disgusting. And I don't approve. And if there was a book burning, that would be it. I would definitely destroy that. All 36 volumes of it. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have been away for a while. Now, what do we do with this information? Well, there's a reason why I enjoy Donald Trump. He made it illegal for lobbyists to lobby the government for a period of time. But he made it indefinitely illegal for international lobbyists to lobby the United States on behalf of other nations. This is kind of what's upsetting, though, because Israel isn't a nation. Therefore, lobbying for Israel isn't quite breaking the rules. It's just a state. If it's a state, who does it belong to, though? Is there another country that operates in states? Because I know my country operates in provinces. The state of Israel. The United States of America, eh? Is Israel one of your long-lost brothers? You might want to leave them lost. Just putting it out there. Because saying protecting Israel is protecting the Jews is a foolish statement. How many Jews are in our countries already? Just living it up. Being reasonable, decent people. Countless. How many Muslims are in our countries living it up? Just being reasonable, decent people. Countless. So why are we attributing this war on a particular religion. When the war is totally not one particular religion, but it's a political ideology masquerading as a religion. So remember when I told you that Israel asked the Allied forces to destroy their enemies? It wasn't Israel that did it, sorry. The Zionists, when it came to Adolf Hitler. Okay. Well, it worked, didn't it? And then not too long after that, we sent a bunch of people down to Palestine. Palestine agreed to a separation, to a border. Say, we'll use this side, you use that side. It's all good. More than enough room here. Why not? And then all of a sudden, that border got violated, didn't it? Then it was violated again. And again. And then they took the Golan Heights, and they lost the Golan Heights, and they took the Golan Heights. I don't know if they lost it yet again or not. What's going on? There was a line drawn in the sand there for a reason. What is going on? Oh, Zionist terrorism is going on. That's what was happening. Nobody saw it. Media wasn't talking about it. Scaring the Arabs out of their homes to take them from them. Taking the farmlands. Very Nazi-esque, I must add. Israel is behaving as Hitler behaved. This is wrong. You must all know and see that this is wrong. But it gets better. It gets better because I'm not done yet. I'm just explaining to you the context of the conflict at play here. So now what happens is that we've dumped a bunch of people in Israel. What do you think happens to them when the Muslim nations around them kind of catch on to the Talmud? Catch on to what's happening. They don't want this in their society. I don't blame them. I don't want people who agree with or who believe in ritualistic child sacrifice in my community. That's not anti-Semitic. That's just rational, logical, sane thinking. If this is what you believe, get the fuck out. It's not rocket science. So then what happens? Was there like a 5-nation Muslim army or coalition of 7 Muslim nations get together? And they attacked Israel. Oh boy, did they ever. They violated the borders. How long before Israel takes all of Palestine? Begins to violate its borders again. We won't be able to establish a line in the Middle East and have faith that Israel won't cross it. So what do we do in a situation like this? You make a radioactive line. 35, 50 miles wide. Nobody can cross it anymore. You nuke it. You make the line as thin as glass. That's it. You guys can't get along. You can't decide on the line. Then we shall go down there and we shall draw a line that you cannot alter. And you will just have to live with it now, won't you? Because this is where it's going. I honestly believe that I don't think we're going to use nuclear weapons as a form of destruction. I think they will continuously be used as a form of deterrence, but they will be used in a way that no one ever thought imaginable. We're going to nuke a line. If you get too close to that line, the radiation poisoning is going to kill you. And you're going to be like, fuck, that was a bad idea now, wasn't it? And that consequence is going to happen to both sides. It won't matter if you're Muslim. It won't matter if you're Jew. You get too close to the line, you're dead. Not because we shot you, because it will just kill you. The line itself will kill you. Is that what it's going to take? Come on. And that's just Palestine and Israel. What about Syria? Oh, no one's really noticing that the next door neighbor happens to be Israel as well, eh? Can't you say? Remember that border line that I asked? How big does it have to be so they don't cross it again? Yeah. Who do you think is launching the chemical attacks in Syria? Seriously. Are you fucking kidding me right now? You don't know that yet because I haven't gotten into the next event. Israel did 9/11. That's it. There it is. Spread the word. Israel did 9/11. Why are we killing Muslims? Because the Zionists of today, Zionist Israel of today, has done the exact same thing that the Pharisees during Christ's time did by asking an empire to destroy its adversary. The Zionist Israel of today is doing the same thing Zionist Pharisees did during Adolf Hitler's time and asked the Allied soldiers to destroy their adversary. The United States didn't want to go to war. We didn't want another war. We didn't want to go deal with that over there. You guys deal with that yourself. What, you need weapons? Cool, I'll sell them to you. But deal with it yourself. Israel can't deal with that itself. It's impossible for Israel to deal with that itself. But nobody was touching us. So why would they bother? Why would us? Why would Canada? Why would the United States? Why would Europe? Why would any of them bother rushing to the aid of Israel? There's no reason to. We had already just finished doing it. Look, you're not in concentration camps anymore, right? Okay, well, we did our part. We saved you. Live your life through in the future. But they couldn't. So they had to ask the empire of today to destroy its adversary. Israel did 9/11. Just like Israel's the one that's launching sarin fucking gas in Syria saying that it's Assad. They are the engineers of this political military tactic. It's right there. It's right in front of our faces. We don't want to look at it and we don't want to talk about it because Hitler was a bad man. This isn't good. Can't turn a blind eye to this because of one atrocious moment in history. I am not perfect, my country is not perfect, and neither is any other person or country on the planet. Israel did 9/11. You got to look into the 5 non-Arabs celebrating. Did you guys know that? 5 people, September 11th, 2001, were caught and filmed celebrating the attack. After further investigation, it was released to the public that those individuals were Israeli Mossad agents. What the fuck are Israeli Mossad agents doing in the United States of America? Because the Mossad is the secret intelligence services of fucking Israel. So what is Mossad doing in the United States at this time? And why are they celebrating an attack against American soil? Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Who's our greatest ally in the Middle East? Say it with me. Israel. Okay. So, Israel does 9/11 and then points the finger at its enemies, saying that they did it. And what happened then? Well, that history isn't terribly old anymore now, is it? The largest, most powerful military on the planet decimated 7 countries in 5 years. That's what happened. Because one country told us they did it. It wasn't me, it was them. One nation said, I didn't do it, they did it. Well, that's interesting. Yo, what's up, Colin? So when we start getting into Israel doing 9/11, there has to be a cause, a reason, a rationale behind it. No, there was. The Muslim nations of the world were coming down on them. They were coming down on them hard. Ah, nice, buddy. So just to fill you in there, Colin, I covered HAARP. I covered how the brain works, targeted individuals. I've covered heterosexual relationships. I've been staying light on the politics. The very, very beginning of this, I explained how families may not always understand what we learn and what we're moving forward through. And I'm at the point of targeted individuals who understand this information. The next 2 topics are going to be economic actions post-revolution and how to destroy the pyramid and win this war. So, in essence, in history, I've demonstrated a method of killing an enemy. It's going nice. In essence, what I've done here is I've illustrated how a method of killing an individual has been repeated multiple times in history by the same group of people in quite legitimately history-altering situations. Okay, I talked about the Pharisees killing Christ. I talked about the Zionists getting the Allied forces against Germany. And now I'm at how Israel is actually the one responsible for conducting 9/11. This information is not going to be it's not going to be easy, to teach. It's not going to be easy to speak about. We will be called anti-Semitic because of it. Be prepared. I wasn't, and I did not appreciate being called anti-Semitic. What I am is anti-Zionist. That's what it is. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, is asking for anti-Zionism to be labeled as anti-Semitism, but they are different. Okay, Zionism being a political ideology hiding behind a religious construct, which is not, I don't approve of that regardless of any religion, really. It doesn't matter who it is. If it was the Christians doing it, I wouldn't be cool. If it was the Muslims doing it, I wouldn't be cool. Okay? So, Israel does 9/11, has the largest, most powerful empire, again, this day, destroying its enemies. So, if you want to know who the enemy is, you have to find out what they teach their children. This is why researching the Talmud will be the most complicated, the most disgusting aspect of what you're going to do in your life. Because no one wants to read that book. It actually makes me sick to my stomach. But without actually knowing that it exists, without actually knowing that there's a religion that preaches it, and that we actually have it skewed and we're killing the wrong people, this is bad. We can't do that. It's horrendous. We can't be doing this anymore. Not because one guy killed few too many people. We can't do that anymore. It's 2017, and war apparently is not done being fought. So we either go to war or we just lay down and die. The revolution. I don't think the revolution is going to be anything that people thought it was going to be. The war is still raging. So normally what a revolution is a drastic turn of events, a drastic turn of ideological thinking. A lot of people like to think that the revolution will stop the war. That's an unfortunate way of thinking because it's just not true. what a revolution at this time will do, it will sway the opinion of the war. Because the war is still being raged right now,